Now, before we get started, I do want to make everybody aware that's watching that we're running a early Black Friday special on the Deepvue side, where you can just email hello@deepvue.com with the words special Black Friday offer, and our support team will take care of it. We've had hundreds of people sign up for annuals in multiple years with that particular offer. So if you're interested in learning more about just what the offer is and you want to get on board with Deepvue for multiple years, reach out to hello@deepvue.com with the words special Black Friday offer. The next thing I want to make everybody aware of is the fact that we have a Discord, and we're inviting anybody that attends our webinars to these to our Discord. Basically, our Discord takes a look at we share some of the things that we're working on, a lot more behind the scenes. If you're interested in learning what's coming up, we showcase a lot of features of the platform as well. So if you're interested in joining the Discord, I'm going to place the link right here in Zoom so that you guys can join in if that's something of interest to you. So we get to discuss features on polls and things of that nature in this Discord. The Black Friday deal is annual only. We don't have a monthly one yet, but we do have an offer. If you go to the website, just sign up for 2 months at $49. It's basically $20 a month to test run the platform and see if it's for you. And we really like people, when they join for annual, it gives them the full experience and enough time to get onboarded as well. So the Discord link is in the Zoom chat for those that are asking, so you guys can use that to join in. And we will now get started. So perfect. So today's topic is relative strength. I will cover the use cases and how I use relative strength in my trading, and then I'll take some questions and we'll end it there. So the goal of this is to be 45-ish minutes. So we'll be done before 12 p.m. Eastern. So one of the first use cases for me when I'm using relative strength is to have an ETF list. And this is a list of all the key, ETFs in the market that identify different themes. So that could be blockchain, it could be internet, it could be gold miners, silver miners, airlines, etc. And I'd like to have the name column be kind of the first one. It gives you a clear idea of what that symbol is, but over time you get used to as to what the symbol is and what it represents. So I create an ETF list and I add the absolute strength rating. So I will discuss 2 ratings today. The first one being relative strength and the second one being absolute strength, what the differences are. So with absolute strength, what that gives me is it's a rating based purely on price performance of a stock. So we take into account price performance of all ETFs that we have in our database. And then we rank the price performance and come up with a score from 1 to 100. And that's essentially what absolute strength 1 month is. And when I sort it by high to low, the highest being the most amount of the highest price performance among the ETF universe, and the lowest being 3, the lowest performance on a 1 month basis. This gives me a clear picture from an absolute strength or a relative strength perspective as to where I need to be in the markets. So these are some of the most strongest spaces on a 1 month basis that things that are starting to see rotation into them or are starting to see the market's money flowing in. So right now, some of the top ones are these. I know a lot of you are going to ask for this particular list, so I'll go ahead and share it in the Zoom chat. So we go here, we click share, it copies to my clipboard, and it's in the chat. So this is a list, you can curate it, you can get rid of things that you don't want to track in the market. If you're focused on a certain segment, you can do that as well. But I like to add the absolute strength 1 month rating, sort it by high to low. And I like to also have Weinstein stages to tell me, where in the journey is the, oil. USO, for example, is in a 4B minus, so that's more of a bottom play, whereas the Bitcoin miner ETF is in a stage 2. That means it's already uptrending as well. So I like to mix it up with, the symbol column being my first one, the name. I don't usually have this on, but just for your guys' reference, the absolute strength rating, which is again a price performance rating, the Weinstein stages. So this is kind of how I like to have it, so that I have an idea of what and where money is rotating to using this absolute strength / relative strength rating in my process. The second thing I want to make everybody aware of is if you go to the My Screens module and you go to screener presets, and if you just type in relative strength, we have many presets that are available just related to how to find strength in the markets. This is one of the favorite setups that Ross has as well, of relative strength line making new highs while the price confirms its action. So essentially, if we just dial it back a little bit as to what relative strength is, relative strength in the market is basically comparing the performance of a particular stock with the performance of an index, and to see if that particular stock is outperforming the index or is in line with the index. When it outperforms, that means that stock is a good one to own. When it doesn't outperform the index, which is the bigger, the market itself, that's probably what we label a laggard or something that is not in line with, if we're swing traders in the market. So what I'll cover next is, we have screener presets where you click my screen, screener presets, and just type in strength or relative strength. You'll see many of those that are preloaded. But let's get started with how you can visualize it first, and then we'll get into how beneficial it is to use it. So one of the latest, you know, uh, so with the chart module, what you want to do is go ahead and add the indicator. So you go DV dash relative strength. We have the relative strength line that you can add to the platform. And I like to place it in a separate panel at the top, so it keeps my price action separate and it's not squishing my price action. Some traders like to have it behind their price action. You could accomplish that as well. So what you would do is just put it in the existing pane. And then what you have to do is say, I don't want it to be on any scale. So some people like to do this where they have the relative strength line right in line with their price. I like to have it in a separate panel because I like to segment information. I like to look at price action, volume, and then relative strength line, not relative strength line kind of overlapping my price action. So the Deepvue relative strength line essentially has many settings that are available. You can compare it to any index that you like. So if you want the S&P, the Qs, the Russell, you have the ability to change that particular symbol. You could plot it as a line. So we'll discuss that a little bit when we get into what relative strength is right after the settings. And then you could also have it as candlesticks. So I like the candlesticks when I'm especially in a correction. I like to measure the number of relative strength days. We'll go over that in this webinar as well. But most people use the line as the default setting. We have a few other settings, but the most important one here is the 21-day SMA or EMA that tells you if a stock is on a 21-day basis outperforming the markets or on a 21-day basis lagging the market. So if I turn that particular setting off, and we'll get the simple relative strength line, let's just move it back to the existing panel above. This is the most simplified, relative strength line. If I were to just make this bigger, so this is, the basic relative strength line that most people use. But what you could do is to get more color as to if it's outperforming the markets on a 21-day basis or on average on a 21-day, then you can turn on this particular moving average. So it plots the average relative strength line. And if it's above, it colors it. That means it's in a relative strength phase. It's outperforming the markets on a 21-day basis. And if it's underneath this red line that just popped up, that means it's not performing as well on a 21-day basis and it's lagging, and it's not in a relative strength phase. So that's the Deepvue relative strength line that is available. Again, it's under indicators. You go to DV-relative strength. I have it on my charts all the time. I look for stocks that are in a relative strength phase. I want to own stocks that are outperforming the markets. I want to own stocks that are outperforming the markets on a 21-day basis, but are also in a relative strength phase. So that's one way of visualizing things for relative strength on the charts. The second way is we have ratings that are available in the platform, and now we have different ratings and different time frames essentially. So if I were to add, relative strength, we have 1 day, so it compares the the performance of all stocks in our database and updates it every 10 minutes in the background if you're looking at 1 day. So if you wanted to find the top stock today in the market, you would use the relative strength 1 day. To find the top stock for the week in our database, you could use the relative strength 1 week, 1 month. So we cater to all different time frames from 1 day to 12 months. Most of what you've learned about relative strength rating is likely based on a 12-month basis. But as swing traders, it's important to adapt to a different time frame. And usually the 3-month setting is what I tend to personally use more than the 12-month because it's a quarter in terms of time frame. It's 1 quarter, and it gives me, as a swing trader, a good idea of where the market is heading and what stocks are the strongest on a 3-month basis. Whereas the 12-month, the RS may remain at 99 and the stock is declining below the 21-day, below the 50-day as well. So 12-month is more traditional. And then we have 1 to 9-month, which caters to different variations of how you trade in the markets. Now, the opposite of that, we also have the absolute strength rating, which is a non-weighted calculation. So it's the top performers in the market from a price performance perspective from a 1 day all the way to 12 months as well. So you can use any of these particular data points to then create a screen, which we will create in just a second. And these are also available as columns in the platform so that you're able to sort your screens, your watch lists, whichever way you like. So if we go back to the ETF list, and let's just add absolute strength 1 week, for example, it will give us an idea of what was strong last week. So it says last week, solar was the strongest group. So if we go to that particular chart, we're starting to see that solar had a gap up. This 10 ETF gapped up. And on a 1 week basis, it was one of the strongest ETFs in the market. So you can look at the market from a weekly perspective, from a monthly perspective, or a 12-month perspective, depending on whatever your trading style may be. So let's go into some of the screens that I run. I really want to make this about how I use it. I think that's most beneficial to traders. So I have a couple of scans just based on relative strength, especially when we're pulling back. And one of the ones that I tend to use is the 62.5% RS days. So what we've configured in Deepvue is, so the initial step to configuring relative strength days was essentially to look at the relative strength line as a candlestick formation. So if we were to take this as a candlestick formation, and I'll get into what a relative strength day is. Essentially, if the relative strength line is represented as a candlestick instead of a line, then we have a open, high, low, close calculation that we do. And if the relative strength line is rising, that's a relative strength day. Whereas if it's declining, it's not a relative strength day. So what we did with the 62.5%, this particular percentage number and the concept of relative strength is we coded that into the platform so that we calculate how many relative strength days any stock in our database has over the last 5 days, 10 days, 15, 20, 30, and 60. So if you want to look at stocks that have been exhibiting relative strength 60% of the time over a span of 30 days, you have the ability to do that. And this is how it becomes really, really useful when you're in corrections. Let's say we're in a 30-day correction or we're in a 50-day correction. Well, you want to pull up the 60-day relative strength and say that, hey, give me stocks that had exhibited relative strength days 60% or more of the time. And just like that, you'll get a list of stocks that are acting really, really well. So this particular screen, the 62.5%, is available as a preset. Again, it has the basic liquidity requirements of average daily volume, price being above the 50-day. It's a common stock or an ADR. And then we have the 62.5% on any of these time frames. And that's how, it gives you stocks, these are the stocks. These are the 60 stocks in the market out of 12,000 that have outperformed the market 62.5% of the time. So this particular concept is really powerful when it comes to corrections. And if we go under just presets, if you type in 62.5, that is available as a screener preset. Now, this concept alone is a really powerful one if you were to visualize it and do studies of prior stocks that were in corrections. If you take a William O'Neill stat, for example, growth stocks tend to correct 2 to 3 times more than the general market. And if a stock is exhibiting relative strength, essentially, it means that when the market bounces, it has a greater chance to really, run up. And we've seen that again and again with anybody that has traded relative strength recently. In the past, if you were to look at model books of from the trader line side of last year, you'll see the same kind of behavior. In corrections, stocks that exhibit strength tend to be the market leaders for the next one. So this particular scan is my go-to scan when it comes to relative strength days. That is available as a preset. I'll pause here for a second just to take a few questions just to make sure. Okay, so do you look at relative strength or absolute strength for earnings, or it's most for swing trading? So at relative strength and absolute strength, I would say has nothing to do with earnings. So if a rating of a particular stock is 98, it doesn't guarantee that the earnings are going to be good. If If a rating of a stock is 50, doesn't mean that the earnings are going to be bad. Earnings are binary events. I have a webinar tomorrow on earnings. I'll share the link to that as we go through this. But try to segment, don't say that a rating of a particular stock will have, kind of emphasize how the outcome of earnings will be. This is purely for technical analysis and swing trading, and how to tackle earnings is a whole different ballgame. ETF lists have all related stocks listed as well too. I think the question is, when you're when you're in an ETF list, when you press this H next to it, you'll see the holdings of that particular ETF. So let's say if 10 was acting well on a 1 week basis, we do have a bug here where the H is. Okay, so let's find 10 again on a 1 week basis. I click into it. Now I could see what were the top, solar stocks and why was this ETF up a lot. And if it continues to see rotation, then I want to be aware of the top stock in this particular ETF as well. But it looks like for the most part, it's just an oversold run, right? On 10, we're still very early as to where it is in its cycle. We're still in a stage 4 downtrend. I mean, if you look for high RS, okay, so I don't correlate with relative strength with trading a stock for earnings. I don't trade earnings because they are binary events. And I used to when I started, and it has an adverse effect on my account. So I stopped trading earnings. I don't go into, I'm going to trade. Tesla's about to report after hours. I'm going to buy right before the close just as a lottery ticket. I'm way past that type of trading. Can you explain the difference between absolute strength and relative strength? I'm still confused. Absolute strength looks for pure price performance of a particular stock or ETF. It's purely based on price performance. Relative strength is a weighted calculation. So if we look at relative strength on a 3-month basis, it will blend the performance of 1 month and 3 month, create a cocktail of that, and it's a weighted performance. Whereas the absolute strength is what was a performance over 3 months. And then we do a score. So that's the fundamental difference between absolute strength and relative strength. And I hope that is clear. The ETF list was posted. I will post it again, but it was posted as a link. So I'll post the ETF share copy there. I've pasted the link. If you click that, and it will be imported into the platform. As a new trader, could you give a little knowledge about RSI? So RSI and relative strength are not the same thing. For anybody that's new, a lot of traders tend to confuse relative strength with relative strength index. Relative strength index is a different calculation, and relative strength is a different calculation. One is looking at the price performance of a stock relative to an index or another commodity, and relative strength index is a whole separate calculation, has nothing to do with it. It's a good question. So how do I decide whether to use RS or AS? Relative strength, it depends on if you're looking at, I would say if your time frame is weekly or more, it's a good idea to probably look at relative strength more. If you are a swing trader, it's a good idea to look at absolute strength a little bit more than relative strength. One is a non-weighted calculation, the absolute strength, and one is a weighted calculation. So it comes down to your trading style. I cannot sit here and just tell you, hey, this is the one for you. It depends on your trading style. How come Microsoft is making the 62.5 RS screen? So let's just run that and we'll take a look. So let's sort by symbol to find. I don't see Microsoft on my end. So maybe I'll share this particular screen that I'm using itself for you to take a look at. Do you have an RS rating that is close to market surge? So we don't ever say that we're here to match whatever market surge is doing. What we've done is calculate RS rating or absolute strength rating as to what we feel is in line with the market structure today. So it could be for you to, internally, obviously we compare and we look at things, and what we put out there has a lot of research behind it. But it's not, we didn't make an RS rating to be a 1-for-1 rating or to match anyone else. Is the EMA 21 on the RS line a buy signal for a stock? So let's speak about this a little bit. So let's put a moving average on it, and also let's change this to line. And then I want to talk about relative strength. So let's speak about some of the strongest stocks in the market that I'm trading right now. So I really want to cover this Reddit trade. So how do you use the relative strength line and relative strength phase? So at the top of my chart, I have the relative strength line. And at the bottom, we have Reddit is a trade that I made. So the reason I got interested in Reddit is that it came down and then it rallies up. It's still it's not in a relative strength phase because the relative strength line is below its 21-day average. And right about here on this particular day, it is now outperforming the markets on a 21-day basis. This was one of the early signs on this August 23 that Reddit is starting to outperform the markets. And then we go into this choppy consolidation and form a pivot right at $60. And what we start to see is the market at this point in time was kind of sideways to down, and Reddit was going completely sideways, and it started its relative strength phase. So the way I use that information is it's a stock that has pulled back, is now starting to resist the market decline, and it's starting to not go down, and it's starting to outperform the markets on a 21-day basis. So now what internally and mentally, I say that it's now in a relative strength phase. I then find an entry area for me to either accumulate that stock underneath a price level or get involved when that stock goes through that particular price level. So it comes from, an idea, looking at a stock outperforming the markets. It does outperform the markets. That shows in the relative strength phase it's created. It forms a clear pivot on the charts, and then it results in a buy. So I accumulated stock right here on Reddit. It started outperforming the markets right about on August 23 when it first got on my radar. And then you start tracking it, you form a pivot, you build a position, and then it works. And this is not to say it's as easy as that. But in this instance, it was a stock that, broke through the 60 pivot, trended well, stayed above the 10-week line, which is the green line on my charts, never closed below, didn't give me a reason to sell or get out of it, and I still own it today. So this is how you could use the relative strength line, place a moving average on it, and when that moving average moves above, when it moves above on a 21-day basis, then you have clear evidence that this stock is consistently trying to outperform the market. You'll see the same kind of trade take place over here. So Reddit IPO'd, we had those 2 days of spike, it came right back in. Well, then we have the 21-day, it's still not outperforming the markets, and right about on this day it outperforms on a 21-day basis. It's now in a relative strength phase. The next step is to now find your entry area and see if you can be part of this potential run. So that's how I use the relative strength line and how I define relative strength phases. And then the concept of relative strength days plays off of that, because you can now scan Deepvue for, if Reddit is outperforming the markets on, 62.5% of the time, let's say, or 60% of the time, 70% of the time over a 20-day time span, it's also going to show up on that scan. So I'm kind of attacking relative strength in many different ways, both visually, from a screening perspective, and also by maintaining my watch list. So I hope that answered that question. How do you use the 62.5% screener? Many of those stocks might be extended, so not related. So the best use case of relative strength days is to use it in a correction. So not every screen that you have is going to be applicable in every market environment. When the market is below the 21-day or below the 50-day, this is when the relative strength day screen becomes the most valuable to you, right? And if you're going to run it right now, when the Qs are near all-time closing highs and the S&Ps near all-time closing highs, it's going to spit out stocks that have been trending and are extended. So tactical screening is a huge component. It's not as simple as, hey, I want to run this screen. It's going to spit it out. Whatever's on the screen is going to get bought, and whatever is bought has to perform. I wish it was that simple, but this is more of a tactical screen depending on where we are in the market cycle and how things are going. That's when you run the screen. It's not an everyday, I would say, type of screen. Perfect. So let's actually put in the market cycle indicator, because I do want to showcase this a little bit with the Reddit example. So What became really clear to me, just to finish off Reddit and hit the point home, was we were in a upcycle and the market started a down cycle right about there. But Reddit continued to be in a relative strength phase. It wasn't getting pushed down past that 55 level. It held that 55, 55, 55, relative strength, relative strength. Market goes into an upcycle. And now I have the market aligning with a pivot, aligning with relative strength, aligning with relative strength days. And all of that, when that comes together, it then causes this trend. This trend is in part because of the relative strength it exhibited here, but also in part the market cycle was now in an upcycle. We're now in an upcycle. We trended for the last 34 days in the market, 33, 34 days. We were in an upcycle, and that's what caused it. When the market is pushing the stock itself doesn't want to go down. When those two forces align and are in the same direction, that's how you get a trend, right? Is Deepvue available for other markets? Deepvue is not available outside of the United States. We will bring it to India and these other places. I see a lot of questions, when are we bringing it to India? That will be late Q4, early Q1. That was a very clear answer. Awesome, thank you. Will you be able to get an alert on the Deepvue relative strength crossover? That's something that we want to do. We don't have the ability to do that just yet, but we will create something with the conditional alerts module, which will allow you to essentially tap into a crossover or a stock going into a relative strength phase. So that is on the cards and will happen soon. Can you use the RS line also on the weekly charts? I primarily tend to use it on the daily charts. I've seen it used on the weekly. I'm not an expert at, from the weekly time frame. So what I'm trying to discuss today is what I actually use for my trading, which is on the daily charts. But it's you could use it on the weekly as well. So is AS closest to the Weinstein calculation, or is that your RS line? I ask because I'm reading his book correctly. So Weinstein's calculation of stage analysis has nothing to do with the absolute strength calculation. Absolute strength is based on price performance of a stock and all the stocks in our database, and we rank them versus each other. The Weinstein calculation is about stage analysis. That's a whole different topic. I'll likely do a webinar on that next week where we get deep into what is stage analysis and how we use it, etc. How to use scan for it as well. So there's also tons of resources on the YouTube channel for Deepvue and TraderLine covering stage analysis as well. Does the RS line have any application in selling? Or this is that's a great question. So what I tend to do is, let's say, let's do hypotheticals a little bit. Now that I'm in a position, it has trended above the 10-day, the stock is acting really, really well. The entry is right around that 60 area. Now it's in the 80s. When am I going to exit that particular stock? So you can use the relative strength line for that. So if I were to just draw something, let's say the relative strength line kind of does this, and then it kind of comes down, and then the moving average kind of comes up. And then now the relative strength line is down. It's now in a declining or not, it's not in a relative strength phase anymore at that point. That combined with two closes below the 21-day is essentially how I exit a particular stock. So you can use, if I was in this position, let's say, I didn't take this trade, but let's say I was here, the stock moved up. Now, when am I going to exit the stock? I would have likely exited two closes below. I would have exited right here, essentially two closes below the 21-day with the relative strength, phase being over right about here. So that tells me I need to exit this particular stock because it's not outperforming the markets. It doesn't match my style, and then it goes into this decline. So I hope I answered that, Vignesh. How does this compare to Market Surge from a functionality and feature standpoint? So again, I am a co-founder of Deepvue. Obviously, I would vouch for this platform. I think we're doing a lot more than a CanSlim type of platform. We have stage analysis, absolute strength ratings, different time frames, 1, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, 1 day, and weekly ranks. I would say if one of you are Deepvue subscribers, you're likely, your opinion is likely more value than me saying Deepvue is better than something else. So I think, we're building really well. We've been doing this for 2 years now, and things are going, really good in terms of the different functionalities that we're adding across the platform. So in terms of a comparison, I would say, we're ways ahead. It's kind of a new way, a new approach to the markets that's a lot more dimensional than a one-dimensional CanSlim approach. Okay. He's talking about the Mansfield. No, I am not talking about the Mansfield RS. I'm talking about the relative strength line. Mansfield RS is based, it has a slightly different logic. We do have Mansfield RS in the indicators. What I'm talking about is a simple relative strength line at the moment. You see that example? This is exactly how I use RS. Perfect. That's awesome. If you have a question, please place it in the Q&A. I'm just going to go over the Q&A because I don't want to be on 3 different screens trying to catch things. Thanks for being honest. Appreciate it. Share others' experience. That was the original way to use it. Yeah, I think the opinions of our users is a lot more valuable, and I could sit here and gloat about what we're doing all day, which wouldn't, which is, would be crazy if I'm not. So, can we run our 1 month screen on a saved watch list instead of adding RS 1 month as a column? As an example on my focus list. So screening watch lists is something that is coming up in the platform. We are working on it, and it will be done in the month of November. So that is something that we're highly focused on getting out there. It's one of the most requested things as well. That is being worked on in addition to watch list sections, combo lists, and screening your watch list. Those are the three big things that we want to do when it comes to watch lists this quarter. Can you have your DVRS rating one more time? Yes. So my DVRS rating is relatively simple. It's I compare versus the S&P, and I'll cover the reason why I do that. So the QQQ or the NASDAQ will see rotation in and out of it. The IWM and the Russell will also see rotation out of it. S&P is kind of the benchmark where if it's kind of down and out and out of it, it's highly likely that the market is also going to come in and cave in to that pressure. So I like to call the S&P 500 the sane child, while the Nasdaq 100 and the Russell will see rotation in and out, and they will act accordingly. So they will have really good weeks or really bad weeks, and they will really trend, and we'll see rotation one way in the market or rotation completely out of them. Whereas the S&P is kind of the level-headed index, where if it goes down, well, you're sure that both of the other ones are going to come down as well. So I use the S&P, I use line, I switched to candlesticks mostly in corrections just to study the markets a little bit, and I have the 21-day. I like using SMA over EMA, mostly based on my back test. A lot of traders recently have become big fans of EMA and think it's faster, but based on my mathematical analysis, because I have an engineering background, I think the SMA keeps you in longer and also is a better signal from a market perspective and a stock perspective as well. So regarding Reddit, so blah, blah, blah. So regarding Reddit, so you would have not sold in late June with 2 closes below the 21 EMA. So let's go to late June. So no, this was a hypothetical example. I did not take this trade. I did take this particular trade that we spoke about. What I was trying to say is how you can use this, the relative strength line, to then exit a particular stock. I would have obviously, if this were to come into my buy point, I would have exited here for sure if one of my other buy rules or sell rules triggered. Where was your, so I just covered that, Steve. Where was my Reddit buy point and why? What are the dots? We'll cover the market cycle. Are you going to list, are we going to list Deepvue hopefully maybe a decade from now? If I create my own watch list of sectors, will they have the H next to them that I can click into the holdings, or that is just a preset? So any ETF in our platform, so any ETF. So if I go to, let's just type in SPY, right? And this is a bug that the team needs to fix, but any ETF should have a H next to it, right? So if I want to know the holdings of SMH, I just click that and I get the holdings of SMH. If I want to go back to where I came from, I click the X and I go back to where I came from. Right now, there's a bug with rendering the H consistently. We'll get that taken care of by Monday morning. But any ETF has a H next to it, and if I want to see the holdings, that's not in a preset. It's anywhere in the platform that there's a H. You click that and you get the holdings of that particular ETF. So that's a really neat feature and a really neat way to look at things. How do I save my ETF screen with one column set setting and then have another screener with a completely different column set setting? Is it something to do with saving a screen as a template? If so, can you please show us how to do this? So the way column sets work in Deepvue. So if I were to, let's say I run earnings next week, this particular screen is tied to my recommended column set. but if I run the 62.5% screen, it's connected to my relative strength data set. So what you want to do is when you create a screen, you just automatically assign it to the column set that you like, and Deepvue remembers that particular setting for you in the background. We will make the UI of this a lot better. It's not the best right now because it's autosave. We thought it would be a wise idea to do autosave, but at the moment it does autosave in the background, but it's not clear which, this screen is connected to this particular column set. That's something that we will improve in the platform, in this quarter. So I hope I answered your question. This is slick, finding the strong stocks in a sector. Yes. So the ETF feature, if you're not aware of it, it's a really nice way. You just build an ETF list, put the absolute strength rating 1 week, 1 day, 1 month, 3 months, whichever is best for your time frame. Sort it by that, find the strongest one, and go right into the holdings. And you get to see the highest, percentage holdings to the lowest ones, or you could go low to high, whichever you prefer. So that's a really neat feature for sure. Do you ever use a relative strength as a divergence to the stock? So we do have something that Richard has been working on, Richard Moglen, on relative strength divergences and phases. That will be out in the platform probably next week, and we'll introduce it. Well, we are looking at ways to a different way to spot divergences where a stock starts to outperform the market. The relative strength phase that I covered is one of those ways, but we will introduce another way that he's created. It's essentially looking for alpha in the markets. What kind of engineering degree do you have? My background is electrical engineering. Can you go over the dashboard and how you optimize it to speed up your process? So let's do that a little bit. So my dashboard, the way I have it set up is I have a chart with a data panel and a list. That's one of my dashboards. It's very simple. The second one is my daily screens. So this is something that I use on, when the market's open. These screens update real time. So I have my high volume screen. I have my absolute strength 1 month screen. I have my liquidity and my tight range. I have those up on the right side, and then a chart. So as I update these watch lists, the chart gets updated. And this is when the market is open or after market close when I need to do my daily routine. The second use case that I have is when the market's open. I have my key watch list. I have the market watch list at the bottom to give me an idea of what the market's doing. My focus list, my high volume, IPO, HTF, market gauges, and universe. So this is my, when the market's open, I'm focused on my focus list and I'm looking at nothing else. And these are some of the stocks, that this is the dashboard that I have open. I have a market monitor, which I have created recently, which I added the Deepvue market cycle to. So essentially it's S&P, Qs, IWM, IWO with the moving averages. And I have the net new high lows, which I'm not a big fan of using, but it's something that I'm looking into and studying. But I like the market cycle a lot more. It keeps things simple. So right now we're in a 33-day upcycle on the, in the markets. And this particular indicator, which we released the past week, counts that for me. So that's one. I have my weekend routine, which I will run after this call. So I go over the IPOs for the last year, S&P 500, high tight flags, high volume screen, launchpad, and 62.5 days RS screen as well. Perfect. So will the Sunday's earnings seminar be emailed? Yes. Everything that you guys sign up for through email is sent out through email. We post it on our YouTube channel as well. So never worry about missing it. Just make sure you register for the events and you will receive an email. Have you ever traded an ETF? I have traded ETFs. I don't now. I focus more on stocks. Is there a screen when the DVRS line crosses over? So we don't have a relative strength phase data point just yet. That is something that is being worked on for the platform. What we do have in terms of relative strength data points, if I just type in relative strength, we have relative strength days. We have relative strength new highs, relative strength new highs over 1 month, 3 months, 6, 9, and 12. We have relative strength percentages configured as well into the platform. And if I just type in strength, you'll get to see the ratings. So we have the RS rating from a 1 day to 12 month perspective. And we also have the absolute strength rating. The RS line crossover is being coded. Do we have a preset dashboard like yours, for example? So yes, there are dashboard presets that exist. If there's anything that you saw that you liked on mine, I can definitely make it a preset, but we have 7 dashboard presets, including, a simple up on volume one that we recently configured, a industry group rank one that was configured. Again, this will be based on screen size. So usually screen sizes are that big. So And then we have the two data panel, which Richard uses a lot. So a data panel on the left, a data panel on the top, and the chart in the middle with two watch lists on the right side. So there are pre-configured ones, but if you liked any of mine, let me know. I'll make a preset out of it. You mentioned you're doing a seminar after this one, how to attend. So I'm doing one tomorrow. It's on earnings. Earnings is based on how to tackle earnings, how to look at earnings after hours, how to screen for earnings, how to screen for earnings surprises. That is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll try to find a link to it. It's under events. If you're in the platform already, you go to education, you go to events, and then we have master trading earnings with Deepvue. Just click register. Let's just copy the link to that, and I'll send that here for everybody that wants to join tomorrow. Perfect. Is Deepvue web-based or is there an app version as well? Deepvue is web-based, but we have iOS and Android apps on the respective app stores that are available. We're also going to work on an iPad, dedicated iPad and tablet app as well. And then we have plans to convert the web app to a desktop application that you can then download and run an executable file. What is the difference between the 1 year and the 3-month RS? Does it mean the starting point of the calculation for 1 year RS is 1 year ago, while 3 months is 3? That's exactly correct. So RS 1 year takes into account, it's a weighted calculation of all the stocks in our database over the last year, whereas 3 months is over the last 3 months. Would you please add a preset for the 6 screens you showed earlier, IPO 1 year? Yes, I can add those as presets right after this call. Some regions and countries will be as of tomorrow on winter time. Yes, that is taken care of on a code level, Peter. Thanks so much. The market cycle is not on the 2 panel. I will cover the market cycle in a bit. So no app, no multi-screen support unless you open multiple browsers. We allow you to open up to 3 tabs of Deepvue at once. Once you open the 4th one, it will scale back and kill the first tab. We don't have a way for you to pop out this screener or that data panel and place them all over your screens, whichever way you like. We don't have that just yet. That's something we're working on. Okay, can you blah, blah, blah. This is a great question. I'm getting overwhelmed by the choices available on indicators on Deepvue. Is there any recommended presets for a swing trader? So I would say if you are a swing trader, what you want to focus on is the Deepvue universe screen, the Deepvue leaders, and the tight range. You want to start there. Those are really configured for you to find some of the strongest stocks in the market and cast the net really, really quickly in terms of screener presets. And then you can move these over to your watch list and have a dashboard customized that way. But we're working on ways to make things simpler and have template dashboards or template experiences for swing traders and position traders to make it easy. So yes, the platform's super customizable and we have hundreds of screens and hundreds of data points, but also it does become overwhelming at times if you're still kind of learning or learning the ropes of how to trade. So what if I use a different browser? Yeah, so it's 3 concurrent connections from 3 different tabs. That's the limit right now. That's what we have, David. Do we have the ability to close the watch list / dashboard from the top panel when not in use? We don't have that just yet in our UI. I think you're asking about this top panel going away when you're not using it. We don't have that at the moment. Yes, the reason I ask about market search, that's all. So yeah, that's a great question. So if you've always used some other platform, I think that is for you to judge. What we've put in terms of relative strength and absolute strength is in line. What we strongly feel good about is it's in line with the market structure, and the weights that we're doing allow you to see those how the market is trading. So something that has gone up 1,000% is having a 99 RS rating for the rest of the year may not be indicative of actually what's happening to that stock today. So that's how we have configured ours to be in line with more of what we see and not what was kind of made many, many years ago and has not been revised since. So that's, I would say, is the differentiation. Obviously, Market Surge and other platforms have done extensive research of their own. That's where the beauty of it is we feel strongly about how we've configured it, and we're pretty confident in the calculation that we have on our platform. Can you suggest a couple of screens appropriate to Nick Schmidt's weekly approach? That's a great question. We'll have Nick do a webinar really soon, but he has the weekly character change. This character change screen is going to get better later today. I'll have a call with him to finalize it, but this is one that he uses, and the second one that he uses is up on volume. He uses those two screens. So those are the two his go-to, and then you want to copy his chart setup. He will be going over that as well. Could you please put the ETFs in a preset? Yes, I will put the ETFs in a preset. At the moment, you guys can look at the Richard Moglen ETF list, but I will also maybe create a Deepvue ETF list and put my 50 ETFs in there. Richard's has 49. They're really similar in terms of what they have. There might be some slight differences, but I'll put this one as a preset as well. Cool. Okay, this is a good question. During market hours, screeners get continuously updated and changed. That makes it difficult to review the screener. Is there a way to stop the update in real time? This is a conversation we've had internally the last week. We're working on the UI of basically adding a button to give you three options: real time, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or off. And then you get to choose. If you don't want to update it, you won't get an update. If you do want to update it every 3-5 seconds or real time, then you get to choose what you want to be doing. So that way, it actually helps us out on a server resources level as well, because right now we're streaming everything real time. Everything gets updated, sorted, filtered real time. But then you would get to choose. And if some of the users want that off, great. It means it will require less server resources. But the default will be real time, but you will have options. Some people prefer 3 seconds, some people prefer 5, some people prefer manual refreshes as well. Thanks very much for your learnings almost every week. Kudos to you and Richard. Thanks so much. The market cycle is not on the 2 panel. We'll cover the market cycle in a few. We will cover market cycle in a few. Okay, so based on the RS line, if I wanted to buy JETS, JETS, where would I have bought it as across the RS line? So I would never use everything in isolation. So I guess it's a good way to kind of think about it. If I use nothing else but relative strength line, what would I be doing? I would say don't be doing that, but let's just say we are doing that. So JETS goes into a relative strength phase right about here, right on this particular day. We have a pivot that forms right about here, and now it's outperforming the markets, from there on. So this was kind of the first indication. So we have a relative strength phase that's down, that's down, that's down, right? And then we see a slight outperformance on this particular day. What I would have done is check how this group is forming. What are some of the holdings in JETS and what are they doing? Are they in line with this outperformance turning into something like this? If they are, great, set a pivot, set an alert, set a stop loss, right? And you get stopped out. It goes back into decline, back into decline. Now we get into a relative strength phase, form a pivot, set a stop, great, never breaks the 10-day, trade works. So now one of them worked, one of them didn't. That's how trading is. There's no 100% probabilities or indicators or things of that nature, but I just showed you an instance. If you just traded relative strength phase, one instance would have stopped you out. The other instance would have never stopped you out, and you're up a lot more than what you would have lost over here. And that's kind of the name of the game anyways. Okay. Pricing info for Deepvue, go to deepvue.com. Deepvue.com is where all the pricing is. What is the easiest way to find major index ETF sectors of a particular stock? What is the easiest way to find which major index ETF sector a particular stock tracks? It's a great question. I'm thinking about it. So if I go to my HV, let's just go here. So what you could do is in the data panel, add the industry. So this is a way for you to see I don't think I'm answering your question too well, or if I'm understanding it too well, but these are the top stocks in this particular industry group. This is what we added to the data panel recently. And this is sorted from high to low. So we got Reddit first, Meta, Z, etc. So that's one way of doing it. The second way of doing something like that would be to add it sector. Let's just add sector. Whoops, I can't type. If we add sector, industry, group, and this, So let's say we add this and you're interested in this particular industry group. It's
12 o'clock.
all you have to do is click that and you're seeing all the stocks in that interactive media industry, right? So you add it as a column and then you click it. Once you click into it, you have all the stocks in that particular industry group. The same applies for the group level. These are all the media and entertainment stocks. This also applies for the sector level. These are all the stocks in the same sector, and then you X out of it. So we have these sector, group, industry, and sub-industry columns that you could dig deeper into. We have the ETFs that have that small H next to them, which you click and you can dig into as well. And then we configure the data panel, which gives you the top 10 sorted by relative strength 3 months. And this is the top 10 stocks in this particular industry group sorted by this. And then you could click these as well, and it will update. Whoops, super zoomed in. And they will update the charts as well. So those are some of the ways to really dig in and do top-down analysis. Great presentation on Jets. Awesome. I'm trying to answer as many questions. If you guys have questions, please put them in the Q&A. I'm looking in the Q&A only. Any plans on adding a comp rating? Yes, we will. We do have the Deepvue rating, which is essentially a mixture of all of our ratings. So that is kind of like a pseudo comp rating. But I don't know if it has a different definition or if I understood if it's the same one. But my knowledge at the moment says the comp rating is kind of like a mixture of all other ratings, which we have in the Deepvue rating already, by the way. Do you use the RS line for exposure when building new positions? I don't use it for exposure. I do use relative strength itself because it's an edge. And if that edge is present, then I have to allocate a certain percentage of my portfolio to that. And that gets into position sizing a lot more as well. So if something like a Reddit, it's a young stock, it's been acting well, it's an IPO, it's a company that everybody knows about, social media names like Meta and Snapchat in the past have done really, really well. So I have a good history of trading these type of names. So all of that comes into play as to how much exposure I will have on this particular stock. Can you briefly show one of the master presets like Quality Maggie in every screen? Yeah, so let's show some of the presets. So if I type in Minervini, so if I go to Minervini 4-month criteria and I edit that, so this is the criteria for the Minervini trend template. What the beauty of this is you can just click this and duplicate it. And when you duplicate it, you make a copy of it. And all screener presets have the criteria completely available. So there's no secrets as to how we're calculating anything. All presets have their own criterias. All the criterias are visible, and you can duplicate any of them that you like. I think we also have Qual Maggie, we for sure do have his screen. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I spelled his name wrong. So we do have his screens configured as well in the platform. How to find the ADR indicator, the one used by Qual? I think we have an ADR indicator. So if we type in, I'll check on that, but I think we have an indicator by him, the Qual Maggie moving averages. I don't know if this is what you're speaking of. If not, do reach out to our support and they will answer. I'm sorry, I just don't know, all the traders in the world and what they're doing. Okay, loads of questions. Should I pay attention to ADR when I'm looking at fast-moving stocks? Qual Maggie is saying ADR is important. What stocks? But yeah, so ADR essentially, so what moves the stock? Let's just speak about that. So what is moving a stock in the market? The stock's float or shares outstanding. So if the supply of the stock or the number of shares available to trade is low, then there's the possibility that the volatility of that stock will be high. That's something that William O'Neill said 40 years ago, right? Now, another mechanism is if a particular company is buying back their shares and they don't want that supply to be on the markets, Apple, CMG, some of these PLTR, some of these companies are buying back their shares. So that reduces the available shares on the market. That again will create momentum, or if institutions are to get involved in that same stock with a lower float, it will trend. The third is ADR. ADR is a measure of how volatile a stock is. So if ADR is 4% on a 20-day average basis, that means the stock is moving up and down 4% on average, right? The average daily range is essentially what ADR is. So if it's moving up and moving down 4% on an average basis, that's a volatile stock. It has a history of volatility. So that volatility can be to the upside or the downside. So it's a fair statement to make that something that moves to the ups, that something that is historically volatile, when it has directional momentum, will obviously also have, move up really, really fast or move down really, really fast. So that's how you use ADR. We have ADR configured in the platform. We have ADR, ATR, ADR percentage as well, from a dollar and a percentage perspective. What is the difference between the Meravini presets? Just different time frames. You look at the criteria, Peter. It's the different time frames. So any update on news? No updates on news just yet. That will be Q1 next year. I assume dark mode is there. Yes, dark mode is available. You click your account settings at the bottom left, and you click theme, and you just toggle on dark mode. Everything's going to turn dark. And then if you want to go back, you just click that, and you go back to light mode. Okay, so loads of questions. I think we've been at it for about an hour. I'll take a few more. But let's cover the last use case of kind of how to find relative strength in the markets really, really quickly. So if I'm on my focus list, what you want to do is activate the data panel in Deepvue. Once you activate that data panel, you can add the sector, group, and industry ranks. I like to use 1 month a lot more now, or 3 months. Those are, as a swing trader, my time frames. And once you add the group rank 1 month, 3 month, all you have to do is just type in rank. You'll see these, and I have selected each of these and added those to my data panel. And what this does is if I am on PLTR, it will show me the stocks that are exhibiting the highest relative strength, that are in the same industry group or in the same sub-industry group right away. So I get a list of top 10 right in line, and I get today's price percent change with that as well. So if I go to APP, it's one of the strongest stocks in software with a relative strength rating of 97. MSTR, it's been a strong stock over the past 33 days. It's trended pretty well. KVYO, this one's also trended above the 10-day. NCNO, another one, right? So now this is a really quick way for you to find the top stocks exhibiting the top most relative strength in that particular industry, sub-industry, sector, whichever level of the market you are looking at. It's an easy way for you to find that. So the top stock in the information technology from a price performance perspective has been IonQ, which rallied from $9 to 16 from a price percentage gain perspective. It's one of the top. And then we have this one, which was a really volatile, but obviously app, something like app is high quality, really liquid, has moved from, $100 to 160 after basing for a couple of months as well. So that was the last way that I wanted to cover on how to find, top stocks with high relative strength in the best groups really, really quickly within Deepvue. We also have a way for you to find the top industry groups when you add the industry ranks, group 1 month and 3 months. So the top, group at the moment is banks, software services, financial services in the market. And then you could take that, you click that, you get all the banks on the left. You could go through all your banks to see why they're acting well. If you want to go through all the software in the database, you click this and it then shows you all the software names, 468. But this is another way of finding, top stocks, and then you get into the top stocks within an industry group as well. So those are the two ways that I wanted to cover that I had on my list as well. Let's take a couple more questions and we'll end it there. Nick, focus on weekly, you focus on daily. How can you have the same profit? I never thought that was possible. So day traders make money, swing traders make money, position traders make money. There are different ways of building and trading in the markets. Nick has chosen or likes to do the weekly way. I have mastered the daily time frame. I know traders who have mastered the 15-minute or the 65-minute time frame. It's all possible. It depends on your personal preference and how you gravitate or what you gravitate towards. So there's no like only weekly charts work and daily don't, or only daily charts work and no other time frame doesn't. How do I know when a company buys back their stock? How to catch that momentum? So that's a very generalized question. Companies announce buybacks. It's just a very small component of, I would say, how a stock moves. Just because a company is doing buybacks doesn't mean it's going to go up. That's also important. Case in point or case study would be IBM or Costco, or not Costco, IBM and Cisco. There we go. When Nick, okay, so a lot of interest on Nick. I will let him know. He has to do a webinar soon. A lot of people want Nick on here. What do the purple circles mean on the RS line? There are no purple circles on the RS line. So you might have, no, there are no purple circles. There's a green purple and a pink purple, or a pink dot and a green dot, but not a purple dot anywhere. Okay, so I think we will end it there if there are no new questions. And if your question didn't get answered, feel free to send it to hello@deepvue.com. Contact us through support. We're more than happy to answer them. We do have an early Black Friday offer going on. Just email hello@deepvue.com with Black Friday special offer, something like that, in the subject line, and the support team will take care of it on Monday morning, if not earlier. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll focus on earnings, how to trade earnings, how to build a column set for earnings, how to screen for stocks with high sales and earnings surprises. That webinar will be tomorrow, and I'll see you there. I wish you found this valuable and helpful. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out.